Here we go. Shop Class Christmas edition coming at you. Let's go. Let's see what we need today. All right, here we go. We are going to, I showed you this a little bit in class this week. We are going to build a Christmas tree, all right, out of these parts. We are going to have to do some painting. We talked a little bit about that in class already. What we need to do is make a material list, all right? A material list, remember, is a list of materials that we're going to need in order to build this project. So in this case, we have a couple of things that we're going to need. So the first thing we're going to need is the trunk. Okay, the trunk is going to be 14 inches long. All right, so you're gonna have to write that down. The trunk is gonna come from this box over here. Now, the nice thing about this project is we can make this out of scrap pieces. I've collected basically all the scrap pieces in here that are roughly at least 14 inches long, but also have a variety of, it doesn't matter if they're a perfect square or if they're a little bit of a rectangle or if they're a little bit skinnier or fatter. All of these in this box will work for what we want. Now, a lot of them are going to have kind of a rough edge on them because these are scrap pieces. They are on the outside of the material we're cutting. So they're going to require a little bit of sanding, but not a ton. So that'll be pretty easy to use. The other thing we're going to need is these pieces here. These are the pieces they're cut, in this case, 1/4 inch thick. We have quite a few of them. We're going to need a lot of different sizes in order to make this work. So we're going to have two groups of material that we're going to have to gather from when we cut these. So we're going to need a trunk that's going to be 14 inches in length. That's this piece here. We're also going to need a base. We're going to need 4 of these, and those base pieces are going to be about 2.5 inches. So we need a base. We need 4 at about 2, and we'll actually make them 2 3/4. Make them a little bit bigger, that'll work perfect. So we need 4 of those. All right, now is where we kind of start putting this together and have you look at what we've created. So we are going to be kind of putting this together sort of like this. We'll actually talk about painting these. Actually, we're going to kind of, when we put it together, we're actually going to make these kind of crooked. We want to kind of this abstract look to it anyway. That's kind of the way we're going to put it together. It's actually going to look a lot better probably in person than on the video, but we will, that's kind of how it's going to assemble. So we need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 pieces total. Each piece is going to be a certain size, right? So for the actual limbs or the branches, okay? Branches, we're going to need 7 total. We're going to need 1 of them at 11 inches. 1 of them at 9 inches. 1 of them at 7 inches. 1 of them at 5. 1 at 4, 1 at 2.5, and 1 at 1.5. inches for a total of 7. So you need to kind of create your own material list for this. So I'll leave this on the screen for a second. This will be a perfect chance for you to probably pause it and then write these pieces down so you know what you need. It's going to be really important that you have all of them. Now when you cut these, now I would not cut this little tiny one first, all right? Because you're probably going to end up cutting these other pieces and probably going to end up with some pieces like this left over. Now the one nice thing about this project also is they need to be pretty close to this, but let's say yours is just a little bit under 11 inches, or your top piece is just a little bit over 1.5 inches. That piece is really small. I don't want you cutting this on the chop saw, all right? Now we could trim it down, maybe on the bandsaw would be easier for this part, but I really don't want you cutting on the chop saw with this small piece. So for this here, you know, we could use something a little bit longer, or we have to use a different tool because I just don't want your hands that close. So we really need to make sure we kind of understand that this is a pretty simple project, but it really just requires getting the right pieces in roughly about this right size. The next thing we need to understand is making sure that we are going to do some painting, and I'll explain to you some different color options. We want to do it in some grays or greens or kind of a combination of things. We want it to look, you know, pretty authentic, but still, if it's going to be in a house that has a lot of tones of gray, we might go with a little different color. So that'll work within our project as we kind of piece it together when it comes all together. So today's video is brought to you by DeWalt saw blades. When you're looking for a quality product at a great price, reach for the yellow. Reach for DeWalt saw blades.